This is the Soccer Media Podcast. I'm John Shrader, our weekly look at the soccer media business and the business of soccer. We're presented by Soccer America and produced by the John Shrader Media Group. It's quite a weekend, a big weekend for American soccer. Friday afternoon, the FIFA World Cup draw in Washington, D.C., and Saturday afternoon, the MLS Cup Final in Fort Lauderdale, Messi versus Mueller, Miami, and Vancouver. Michael Lewis, longtime soccer journalist and editor of Front Row Soccer, will join us in just a minute to talk about the weekend. He attended both events and covered and is writing for Forbes for both of those events. Let me remind you, your Soccer America membership includes a daily soccer television schedule delivered to your inbox every morning. I've been depending on this for years to follow games from all corners of the world. For a 30-day free trial of Soccer America, which includes all its e-letters, go to www.socceramerica.com/free trial. That's socceramerica.com/free trial. This is the Soccer Media Podcast, and what a big week it is and has been for American soccer. The World Cup draw on Friday, MLS Cup on Saturday, and a gentleman who was in both events, at the arena in both events this weekend, Michael Lewis, longtime journalist, soccer journalist, 50 years, I understand, covering the business, and he's with us now to talk a little bit about this weekend. Michael, thanks for your time.
You're welcome, John. Thank you for having me on. Looking forward to the discussion.
Michael is the editor of Front Row Soccer, does some of that work on Substack. And let's get this out right away here. How do we find you on Front Row Soccer and Substack?
It's frontrowsoccer.com. And boy, Substack, go to frontrowsoccer.com and look at the link. I can't tell you off the top of my head. It's called View. Okay, it's called View from the Front Row.
Okay.
It's good marketing plan on our part there. We stumbled into it by pure accident, which a lot of things, that's what happens in life.
Yeah. Well, you had a kind of a regular job for a long time, columnist for the New York Daily News, and covered some Soccer America years ago, and so now you just kind of do a lot of this and a lot of that. I know you were covering this weekend for Forbes, but if you were to tell somebody in a quick pitch what it is you do, tell us, please.
Well, I cover soccer for a living, and it could mean anything from high school soccer all the way up to international soccer. I subscribe to the theory that there's always a story behind everything. Sometimes we have to work a little harder for it. And when I say we, I'm talking about journalists. And that means maybe asking some deeper questions, but I really have a lot of fun doing this. And what I mean by that is I see every story as a puzzle, whether it's a game story or if it's a feature story about someone, putting together that puzzle. I just enjoy doing it. I guess it's maybe being creative, trying to beat a deadline clock, if there is such a thing anymore on the internet, and enjoying what's happening on the field. All writers I think, are fans of whatever sport they are covering. And what I mean by that is maybe we don't root for a particular team, but we want to be entertained. And we'll probably get into the fact that someone on Inter Miami entertained a lot of us today.
He might wear number 10. We might ask you about that too. A friend of mine long time ago from my West Coast, my Bay Area days, who also worked in New York, Michael Martinez. I don't know if you know Michael, worked for the Times for a while. And he said, I'm not a fan of any teams, but I'm a fan of the star talking to me after a ninth inning home run. I'm a fan of 9-inning games. I'm a fan of not standing in the rain to do my job, those kinds of things. But I'm not a fan of any team. I want to enjoy the process. I want to enjoy what I'm watching every day. Does that sum it up a little bit?
That sounds perfect. Definitely. I like to talk. I'd rather have someone, and I hope this interview doesn't fall into that category, but I'd rather have someone who talks a lot to me than gives me yes or no answers, because it makes it a lot more difficult to put that personality into perspective, or a winning goal or a losing goal or whatever. You want to, I try to ask when it's possible, not on crazy deadline. I consider thoughtful, intelligent questions. Sometimes we have to ask the cliche ones as well too. Sometimes they work for good answers, but it's all about doing your job, doing it efficiently, getting out of the locker room, getting back to the press box, or maybe if you're doing the story from home, do that as well too.
We're recording this on Saturday night, and we're lucky that the World Cup draw ended in time for that MLS Cup to start. And I'm going to ask you about that and number 10. But one more thought about what you have done over the years. And that is, you were saying that you didn't necessarily start out wanting to be a soccer journalist. Is that right?
Well, yeah, we're talking 50 years ago. Soccer was not a big deal, first of all. I wanted to cover baseball. I grew up watching the Yankees and Mets. I was a Yankee fan. I hope no one's booing too much right now. I know they have a lot of non-fans around the country, but I wanted to cover any sport but soccer. And if you could indulge me in this story, because I love telling it because it's so ironic. Uh, my first job was at the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, and they had a team there called the Rochester Lancers. They played in the same league and the same division as the New York Cosmos. Just to put things into perspective, they were not. They had their glory days early on before I joined the newspaper, and I looked at them, and they were having scandals and not so good news off the field. And I said, "There's no way I want to cover this team. It's too much of a hassle. I just want to cover what's on the field." Well, first of all, 2 weeks into my first job in Rochester, we had a long dinner break, and me and Tom Fitzgerald, another writer on the DNC, decided to go to Hollander Stadium. Rochester is a small city, so we could pull this off, and watch the Lancers play this exhibition game against the Italian National Army team. We get there, and the fans invade the field. They attack the Lancers, believe it or not, the Lancer players. And I said, thank God I don't have to put up covering this motley crew. Now, at the time, I'm 22 years old, a rookie on the beat. They give me the high schools. I knew you have to start at the bottom. I guess the editors liked what I was doing, because 6 months later, I get called over to the desk of the assistant editor, Bill Parker, and he has a stack of files on his desk, and he starts talking about the Rochester Lancers. And I'm thinking, this is like my worst nightmare, because he's saying how exciting it is. It's a professional team, blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that. And he says, congratulations, you're covering your first professional team. And he pushes the files toward me. And all I wanted to do is push them back to him, saying, thank you, but no thank you. First year, we're under probation. Every writer is, no matter how good we are. And I'm not going to ruin my career by saying no way. It took me 3 years to really feel comfortable with the sport. I was covering other sports as well, too, but it was pretty cool getting a chance to talk to other people from different parts of the world. Eventually got a chance to go to England for the first time. I won't go into that story, but saw 3 games with me and my wife that week. And I just loved the beautiful game. I learned early on about it. I guess the learning curve was pretty huge. I'm still learning about it as well, too. The irony about all this is that I wound up writing a book about the Rochester Lancers because of all the crazy things that happened with the team. I promised myself years ago I would do it, and I wrote it. I completed it during COVID. If there was one good thing about the pandemic, it was that it gave me time to finish it. Sorry for the long story on that, but I kind of laugh at that because, again, it's O. Henry, irony.
Yeah.
O. Henry is the author.
Lancers got you into, and that was 50 years ago. I mean, literally 50 years ago.
It was February. I was told January 1975, and boy, I knew very little about the sport. I mean, to me it was kickball, and I had good mentors on the team. And there was something about it. I think originally it was the fact it was, hey, I get a chance to learn about the world. And I was learning about the Serbo-Croatian crisis before it became a big deal, because the Lancers had a lot of Serbian players when I was covering them. They played in the same division as a team in Toronto called the Toronto Metros Croatia. And the fans hated each other's teams, particularly fans in Toronto. That's another story unto itself. We won't go into that, but it was, wow. It was quite a way to learn about modern history.
Yeah. Didn't Franklin Foyer write a book a number of years ago, something about soccer explaining the world?
Yes, he did. I read it. I loved it. And I just said, those type of books inspire me to do different types of reporting, because I'm thinking, my Lord, how long did he have to research and do all that?
Yes.
But he did a fantastic job. And I think that should be required reading for every soccer writer in this country.
I agree. So this weekend, the World Cup draw happens, and then you're at you go to DC at the Kennedy Center for that, and then you jump on a plane and go to Fort Lauderdale for the Saturday afternoon game between the Inter Miami team and Vancouver. And this was your 29th MLS Cup Final, correct?
Right.
Okay, there have been 30 of them. So what happened that one time?
Well, I had mentioned the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, 2020. Decided not to go. No spring chicken, and I understand the ramifications at that time if you got COVID. This is before they had the vaccinations. So, talked to my wife and decided not to go. It was an easy decision and a difficult decision. You don't want to see a streak stop, but here I am. I'm able to talk to you about the other MLS Cup since then. So
right. You don't want that to be the end of it,
right? I'm not in it. I'm not in the business to set records or streaks. It's nice if it happens.
Yeah.
For the longest time, Steve Goff and Ridge Mahoney and I were tied at the same amount, and I thought we'd just go on forever with it. I'm here to write about the game, to enjoy it, make some money. Nothing wrong about that too. You want to pay your bills on time, but and I'll make an effort to go to the Cup as long as I'm still writing, and there's something interesting to write about.
Yeah.
There'll be a day when I say this is it for me. Sorry, Major League Soccer.
If you want to go to, if you want to see what all those credentials look like, go to frontrowsoccer.com, and there's I believe, a photograph of all of them in some sort, right?
I put them, the best way to do it was I put them on the floor, wooden floor, great background, by the way, I thought. And I made sure they were all in the proper order from 1996 all the way up to 2024. And it was easy to do. And I put them back in the box, and I had trouble putting them back in the box. I guess I did a great job of stacking them neatly, but promised myself I was going to do it over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend so I could put that up before the game today.
So the game ends up 3-1. Inter Miami wins the championship, and I know the announcers pretty well, both of them. I tried to watch both the Fox and the Apple broadcast today, and I know the announcers well. And and having been a broadcaster for my whole life, it's easy to say, and Inter Miami finally wins the championship. Wait a second, they're like 6 years old or 7 years old or whatever it is, finally win the championship. What we really mean is that Messi in his third year, he's won an Open Cup, I guess. I'm not sure what it was, or an MLS Cup, but it never won the MLS Cup. Right. And then, of course, I don't care how old he is. We're not spring chickens, and by soccer count, he's not either. But he... boom, boom, snap your fingers, and makes the difference, and the game is over.
Exactly. And he also played a role in the first goal for Miami, which turned out to be an own goal, but a goal is a goal. You take it any way you can. What I enjoy about seeing greatness and brilliance on the field is you don't know when it's going to happen. And, looking at the goals, and I'm going to look at it again. I haven't looked at it enough, but you talk about someone who has a ridiculously high soccer IQ, who knows what he's going to do with the ball before he even gets it. And he makes it look so easy. But we don't realize, as, let's say, mortals, the ball is spinning in a certain way, and he has this way of controlling it and giving that pinpoint pass to a teammate. And the one thing that I've written about over the years about Messi, as great a goal scorer as he is, I think he's a better playmaker. It goes hand in hand with being a goal scorer too, because people collapse on him. Okay, he'll give it to a teammate. Obviously, he needs talented teammates to do damage, but
Mm-hmm.
he's got some pretty good younger teammates on the team. So it doesn't surprise me what he did. I know a lot of people say, well, he didn't score. He set up the game-winning goal, the insurance goal, and helped played a role in the sequence for the own goal. Not a bad afternoon. And plus, at the end of the day, as captain of the team, he gets the trophy and celebrate. And he's probably still celebrating with his teammates and family now.
So after all these years of watching Messi, and I know you're writing about him, and folks can go to Forbes, I guess, and Front Row Soccer and read this. But after all of the brilliance, all of the years, all of the championships, how do you grab a hold of something about Messi that hasn't been said, written, or thought? Is that part of the challenge of doing this now?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, it is. I mean, I'm not completed with my Forbes story. I'm not saying I'm struggling with it because I have about 80% of it done, but I'm looking at it saying, okay, what sort of thought can I have to put, to add to this, to complement this? And, one of the things, again, I pulled up an old story of mine that I did about Messi at the 2008 Beijing Olympics.
Wow.
He played two games in Beijing, but did not, in Beijing itself, the semifinals and the finals, did not score. But I talked about his passing ability back then, and he was a 21, 22-year-old. And it's important to do research, is what I'm getting at for
Mm-hmm.
any writer. And I'm thinking, okay, I did see it then, and he's still doing it today. He is just so confident in his ability. And when I say confident, I don't mean cocky, but he knows what he can do. And a little preview of the story, he might have lost a little off his fastball. We don't know if he could still play in Europe. Maybe he can, but he could still do damage, no doubt about it. And finding that certain something to write about. Again, people go crazy about his goal scoring, and rightfully so, no doubt about it. But again, his passing ability is uncanny. And he reminds me, the closest thing would be to a Wayne Gretzky in his prime. Gretzky could obviously score goals by the bucketful, but also he found teammates too. Again, yeah, teammates like Mark Messier and the like to help out. But hey, Messi has some pretty good. There's a pretty good supporting cast as well.
Yeah. Um, Messi's the kind of guy who came here. He wasn't the first. I mean, again, it's not ironic. It's intentional that Beckham, who was the guy who came from Europe over here to sort of open up the gate, is the owner of. He doesn't have all the money in it, but he's a co-owner of the Inter Miami team. And then they make a massive investment in Messi. What does it mean to American soccer and MLS? I'm guessing this will be the highest rated MLS Cup final, I would think. It certainly got lots of attention. Thomas Muller playing for Vancouver, Messi playing for the championship. They had obliterated like 3-4 games in a row, these massive goal scoring. And so what does it mean in the bigger picture, this Messi American soccer experience, if it's not too early to sort of assess that?
Well, that we could attract big time players, and granted, I understand it's at the end of his career. Um, you know, teams in MLS are spending more and more for players now. And I'll go back to the days of Pelé and the New York Cosmos. when Pelé came over here, other players followed. To the Cosmos, there was Franz Beckenbauer
Mm-hmm.
and Carlos Alberto, who just happened to be captains of their World Cup championship teams a few years earlier. Uh, Johan Cruyff came over to play here. Gordon Banks did. We're talking about some of the greatest players in the world. Granted, they were on the other side of 30. We all know about retirement league, over 30, whatever you want to say. But they came over here. They helped plant the seeds back then. Uh, we all know that the NASL went to the great soccer league in the sky, going out of business after the 1984 season, but there was something there. Messi is now proving that players could come over here. They could get paid very, very well. They get paid much better. They have much better salaries than their NASL counterparts did, although they weren't, Pelé and Carlos Alberto, et cetera, were paid fairly well. And I think this will help open up, let's say, the door for other top players. What I'm looking for is a player, an attacking player between the ages of 25 and 30, maybe a Mbappe someday, to come over here before he's 30, because I think attacking players are generally in their prime years between the ages of 23 and 30. That would be a big, big deal. And I know it's going to cost millions and millions of dollars. But if you take a look at where MLS started in 1996, where the salaries weren't that big, now players are getting compensated, what, $5, 6, 7, $8 million, and Messi's is through the roof.
I think what American soccer folks like, at least what seems to be trending, is that these young players from South America, Central America, are coming here before their prime. Now they're going to get, if they're any good, they're still going to get sold to Europe somewhere. But interestingly, on this Miami team, an Argentine coach and several Argentine stars, but a couple of them are young players who are complementing Messi's work, right? And I think that's encouraging. And that happened when Suarez got benched. And then you have like 3 Argentines attacking on this Miami team that made, I mean, I don't know how many would they score? 4, 8, 13, like 16 goals or something in the last 4 games, something in that neighborhood, right?
I know that obviously that is a lot, especially at championship level soccer.
Yeah.
We're used to 1-0, 2-1, and they're just rolling over teams. Now they didn't roll over Vancouver today.
No.
Vancouver put up a fantastic fight. They could have taken a 2-1 lead, and we all know the next goal means so much. But there'll come a time when maybe these players will attract. They might have had already a big time team in Europe. They're going to dangle a lot of money, a transfer fee in front of Inter Miami, and they're going to say, yes, thank you very much, we'll take it. But guess what? They're going to use that money to bring over maybe another young, promising player. So what drives me crazy about soccer is that players come and go maybe too quickly, but I understand their careers only last 5, maybe 10 years. They've got to go and grab the money. But I think this is a good sign for Major League Soccer that they're selling players at a high level and being able to bring in younger players who maybe a few will stick someday.
Yeah. So Miami wins the game 3-1 over Vancouver. And again, Vancouver for half of that match was the better team. Maybe even more than half of that match was the better team. But, you got to score, and you got to score at the right times. But 24 hours earlier, I watched. I didn't watch it all live, but then went back and watched most of the World Cup draw. And then I looked at a number of dispatches by reporters who were there. You were there. I'll ask you, but it looked like it was a long slog of a day, and at some points it just seems sort of like kitschy and tacky and
And,
just, I don't know. You tell
yeah.
me what it was like.
Well, first of all, I don't know how many journalists have talked about this. We had to go through security screening through Secret Service before the draw, and the big thing was it was snowing and cold, and some of us waited almost 2 hours. I was fortunate; it was only an hour and a half, so that was
Wow.
torture. And don't get me
Outside.
wrong.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I think security is really important, but I would have liked to have seen maybe more Secret Service and more portals for everyone to go through. Don't I am I am all for security. At the end of the day, at our house, I make sure all the doors are locked and the lights are off and everything like that. That's low level security, but going to the draw itself, yeah, they try to use the word kitschy, um, entertainment. I mean, the hardcore fans or media supporters, whatever you want to call us, soccer nerds, we want to get to the big thing, the the teams, who's playing who, when, all that other stuff. I was excuse me, I was following the time, and I was sitting next to Steve Goff at the press table, and I noticed the draw really started. I'm talking about the draw of picking the teams. It started 87 minutes into the program,
Yeah.
finally.
Yeah.
And because that's what everyone wanted to see.
Yeah.
I mean, the first 87 minutes, we could talk about some political ramifications on an award and that sort of thing.
You mean
But
a Peace Prize?
yeah, and
Okay.
I did a piece on the Peace Prize for Forbes, trying to put it into perspective about the last three FIFA presidents. They haven't always been saints, let's put it that way.
Well, there might be some questions about the corruption in world soccer, but that we don't have time to get into that.
Yeah, that you could do a multi-part podcast.
You could
on
write
that.
a really thick book on that. Yeah. So we get all that out of the way, and finally they start pulling the
Right.
little balls out, and of course, Tom Brady, Shaquille O'Neal, Aaron Judge, and the aforementioned Wayne Gretzky are the folks who pull it out. Now, once they're all done and got through all of that, then let's talk about the American draw, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I understand this correctly, Michael, they're going to play all their group games on the West Coast. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's a good move.
Well, that's what it was decided last year.
Yeah.
The first and third games in Los Angeles, the second game in Seattle.
Lucky fans.
The last game, and we found this out today, Saturday, that the last game is at 10:30 at night. 10:30
local
at night.
time or Eastern time?
I think it might be Eastern time. I have to admit I haven't dwelled into it that much, but
yeah, I haven't either.
It's
late.
I know newspapers are different now. They have them online, but wow, for old people like me, I'm falling asleep earlier. No, I'll find a way to
do that. So we're talking Australia, Paraguay, which was just here not long ago, and one of the European playoff teams. And I'm going to say off the top of my head, Turkey, Romania, Slovakia, and Kosovo.
Ding, you got it right.
Okay. And so whoever survives out of that group plays. So what I've seen is that it seems to be a pretty favorable group for the U.S. Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, I definitely do. And if the U.S. doesn't make it out of the group, there be great disappointment for obvious reasons. It's not like they've got England in the group, or Croatia. Croatia, by the way, is a country that punches well above its weight. It's
just look at the last two World Cups.
Yes, and heck, they had when they finished second in 2018, they had a parade in Zagreb.
Yeah.
Because there's all different levels of success. Finishing second in the World Cup when you're considered an outsider, that's like winning it anyway. So,
Yeah, and
but
they have and another team in that group L is Ghana, which is very lowly seeded or rated, but has always been a
it's
handful in the World Cup.
especially to the U.S. We know
Yeah.
a few times they gave the U.S. a second round of 16 elimination,
Mhm.
and fortunately they're not playing the U.S. at least not in the group stage this time. And you've got to look at reputation, but obviously the big thing is what do teams bring to the World Cup come June? Who's injured, who's not, who's in form, who's on the team. Sometimes coaches make controversial decisions on leaving players out, and sometimes they bring in a young player, and he does wonders. I remember Michael Owen with England in 1998. He was a teenager at the time, and he scored this incredible goal against Argentina, and he had a nice little career as well too. So there's so many factors that I know us pundits were doing the what ifs, what's going to happen. We assume everyone's going to be healthy, and one thing I've learned is you're never going to get a perfect team in the World Cup. Someone's going to be um, injured, unfortunately, and there's things called knocks that they don't make a big deal about, but sometimes you're not injured, but you're slowed down by certain slight muscle pulls or whatever. You're getting kicked here or there or whatever. We've
Yeah.
all have it.
Yeah, and in soccer they're knocks, in hockey they're lower body injuries or something like that, right?
Yeah.
There's a euphemism for that. So, Michael, 6 months ago, Pochettino was like the bad guy. What is he doing? His things are not organized. The team can't win, and now he's almost sainted by the way things have gone the last number of games. Where do you check in on the Mauricio Pochettino story?
Well, I was concerned at one time because the team was not getting results and not playing well. You don't have to, if the team was playing well and maybe tying or losing by a goal, but looking good, you'd say, okay, that's fine. But I wasn't biting my fingernails at all. But I think it took a while for the team to maybe get used to what he wanted. You have to remember, he did not join the team at the beginning of the World Cup cycle.
Mhm.
So we lost a lot of important time to get to know the players, implement his system, and getting to know the players at a national team level. It's not like a club team where you see them day in, day out.
Yeah.
Internationally, you're going to get them every few months or a few days. And, I think it's important to learn how to communicate to different players. Some players you have to yell at, some players you leave alone, and some players, you just talk to.
Yeah.
Everyone has a different personality. And to be a coach these days, you have to be a psychologist, psychiatrist, and know how to deal with certain situations. It goes well beyond X's and O's. That's important too.
Yeah.
And but I think it's important to know who you're dealing with so you can get the most out of them.
Yeah.
By the way, I had some great sports editors who knew how to push the buttons in the right way, and we loved running through walls for these
Yeah.
editors.
And let's be honest now, and the days have changed since the Pele, Alberto days of yore. Now they have so many coaches and so much analysis, and they have all the video. They have every piece of information available. So you
Mm-hmm.
have people to do the kinds of things that the head coach used to have to do, and then the head coach can spend time being organized, being the psychologist, being the motivator, the inspirer, the butt kicker, or whatever it is. And so they have time. As we wrap it up here, Michael, your whirlwind from the Kennedy Center to the Chase Stadium for, I guess, its last performance, I guess, as well, because Miami's moving into a new stadium next year.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of sum up the whole weekend experience for us if you can.
Wow! Wow! Uh, crazy weekend. I guess for myself, crazy weekend. I got into Fort Lauderdale at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
Uh, Plane was late, unfortunately. It happens, but got sleep. And if you can't get excited about a championship game of your domestic league, then you should not be in this business at all. And I think that adrenaline kept me going through the day, and I even still have it. I'm not tired yet. Um, I think it was a lot of looking back at it now that I don't have to uh, stand in the snow and the cold anymore. It was an intriguing experience in that I got a chance to um, see another World Cup draw. By the way, that was my 12th one. I probably should have let you know. And they seem to be getting too glitzy over the time, but going from the international end to the domestic end, two entirely different things. High profile. I mean, the world is going to be talking about what transpired in Washington, D.C. on Friday until June 11th. That's when the World Cup kicks off. Messi in Miami, maybe not the entire world will, but enough people in American soccer will as well too. And you mentioned the new stadium, whether or not they're going to keep the team. There's been rumors about maybe Messi going back to Barcelona someday. But we've slowly but surely become a soccer nation there. And I won't go too deeply into it, but there are different levels of being a soccer nation. Level one is probably Brazil, Italy, Argentina, England, France, Germany. They're friggin' crazy about it in a certain way. We're probably at the third level right now. We've grown. We've moved up from 5 to 4 to 3. The sport is accepted now. In my 5 decades, I remember when people regularly put the sport down, criticized it being too slow, too lack of goal scoring, this and that. The public didn't know what to make of it. Pelé was known as Pele to a lot of people, people mispronouncing the world's greatest player's name. Things have changed so much over the years. Kids playing youth soccer, becoming adults, parents, coaches, having their kids play, becoming part of the American experience as well too. Probably usurping Little League Baseball. I don't have the facts on that. What I'm getting at is the sport has grown so much over the last 50 years that we could handle a World Cup draw on one day and an MLS Cup championship game on the other day. From my selfish perspective, I would have liked to have had a day off between the two to catch my breath because there was so much to write about the World Cup draw, which I'm not getting to. And I'm reading other writers' analysis, and I'm thinking, man, that's what I wanted to write. And you don't want to really duplicate anything, but any writer worth his or her salt will come up with a good idea. I'm sorry for that long soliloquy there, but I wanted to put it into perspective of how far we have come as a soccer nation, where I haven't looked, I haven't had the opportunity to really jump into the other stories yet, just because I've been going from one event to another. I'm not complaining about that, but I'm looking forward to having normal life now for the next several weeks to catch up on a lot of reading.
There you go. And were you and Stephen Goff at both? Was Stephen there, both of them as well?
Stephen was there too. He, as it turned out, I sat with him and Kevin Baxter of the Los Angeles Times yesterday. And today, Paul Kennedy of Soccer America sat to my left, and right to his left was Steve Goff. Steve and I have known each other since 1993. We met at a Canada-Mexico World Cup qualifier in Toronto, which determined a World Cup berth. Hugo Sanchez playing for Mexico that day and scoring a goal and I think assisting on another. I try to remember things like that.
There you go.
But But anyway, I'm telling you more than you want to know. Sorry.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Get to writing and again, get some rest, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun.
Of course, frontrowsoccer.com is where you find Michael Lewis. And again, the Substack is
View from the Front Row.
View from the Front Row.
Yes.
And so if you're not sure, Google Michael Lewis, not the guy who writes books like Blindside, but the other Michael Lewis, okay?
He's the rich one. I'm not the rich one.
You're the soccer guy. So there
Right,
you go.
Thank you. Very good.
And Michael Lewis has been with us on the Soccer Media Podcast. I'm John Shrader.